people, welcome to another episode of Farm with Paul. And today we bring you the best episode in terms of super napier, where we tell you the pros and cons of the super napier. Super napier is one of the napiers that has been in the media, and a lot of people are actually talking about it. But there are some farmers who don't know the reality about this super napier. That's where Farm with Paul is here to tell you what we know, what we have confirmed, and how you can actually benefit from the same super napier. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, TikTok, and on Facebook at Farm with Paul. The main difference between super napier and our normal napier. Super napier is said to have a crude protein of 16 to 18% compared to our Kakamega 2, which is said to have 10 to 12% crude protein. At the same time, super napier yield around 180 tons to 200 tons per acre of the super napier, whereas our normal napier will produce around 60 to 90 tons per acre, which means it contains a high amount of biomass, which can actually help in sustaining and growing your animals. But what they don't tell us is the amount of energy that is contained in the super napier, and that is why Farm with Paul is always here to explain to you on what you can be able to do to increase the amount of energy in the super napier in conjunction with the protein that will help you actually in attaining high productivity. When it comes to propagating super napier is propagated through cuttings, and you actually plant your cuttings at least 1 meter apart. As you can see from these, they have actually produced a lot of shoots that actually are going to fill actually the 1 meter that is actually remaining. And on the other hand is, you should know, it actually requires a lot of water in terms of actually managing this super napier. If you do not use enough water, what will happen is there will be no enough growth. But whenever you have enough manure, you have enough water, you can be sure of harvesting at least 180 tons to 200 tons per acre of these. One of the things that is actually making super napier among the famous fodder is due to its crude protein. Super napier is said to have a crude protein of around 16% to around 18%. At the same time, its yield is among the things that is making this fodder to be very famous, because it's said to produce 180 tons to around 200 tons per acre, which is actually a lot of biomass that can actually sustain 10 cows for approximately a whole year. Now, when we talk about the super napier, what are some of the things that you should know about the super napier to help you incorporate or actually be able to feed on your own dairy cows? Apart from the high crude protein, it is not said how much energy it contains. So whenever you're using super napier, you will be forced to use other sources of energy. At the same times, in terms of production, super napier has surpassed a lot of crops used in terms of fodder but to our own animals. And this is how. For example, if you decide to use something like a sugar graze, it will give you less than 50 tons per acre in terms of production. Whereas for the super napier will give you approximately 180 tons per hectare. So when it comes to things like the maize, a maize can give you approximately 10 tons to around 20 tons per hectare, depending on the variety. But now the difference between maize and the super napier is maize contains a very considerable amount of energy and also contain a protein content of around 9%. Due to the low amount of energy in the super napier, we recommend as Farm with Paul, whenever you're actually using these, you should incorporate with other byproducts. For example, you can use the maize germ or actually mix with your maize silage. One of the things I always advise my farmers is, if you decide to use a certain crop, for example, you decide, I'll be growing super napier as my source of fodder, make sure you know the nutrition content, and make sure the most important thing is the harvesting time when the nutrients are at the maximum stage. And this is very important because it will help in reducing the concentrate. On the other hand, in terms of the super napier is, make sure you have enough at least to last you for a whole year. And I've always told you, and I've always advised most of the farmers to make sure whenever you have a super napier, you can harvest it and preserve it as silage. But the method of cut and carry is not actually advisable. This is because by the time you start cutting this portion, by the time you finish at the end, what will happen? The end part will already be overgrown and the nutrition will be very low. So it's best harvested when your super napier is around 1 meter, and a half, when the nutrients are already available. And the other thing is, at 1 meter and a half, it also contains what we call digestible fiber, which actually can help your cow. But when it overgrows, the digestion fiber turns into something called tannins, which are not actually digestible to your cows. Hence, you'll be what we call a manure farmer instead of being a milk farmer. So make sure the harvest time is actually observed. Super napier can also be used in making silage. The other part about the super napier is, you should know that a super napier is a heavy feeder, meaning you have to actually feed your super napier on manure so that it can be able to grow properly. As you can see from this super napier, what happens is, if you plant one cutting, it actually generates a lot of cuttings around that area. That means for you to sustain it for a very long time, you have to properly feed it so that you can have enough biomass. At the same time, the moment you use very good quality manure, you also increase the availability of some minerals in the same super napier, like the calciums and the phosphorus. So whenever you want to plant a super napier, first of all, and what I advise is, make sure you know what it contains. And here at Farm with Paul, we have actually elaborated to you, it contains very good protein but very low energy. So whenever you are actually planning for your own feeds that you can feed for approximately a whole year, make sure you plan properly so that you can be able to have a sustainable growth according to the requirements of your own cows. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, as we'll be bringing you more and more and more in terms of dairy farming, in terms of pig farming, and also coffee farming. Apart from the super napier, we can also be bringing you about maize silage, on how we can preserve it. And make sure to subscribe so that whenever we post another new video, we'll be the first one to be notified. Next week, we'll be making silage from the super napier, and we are going to elaborate every step on how we are going to make our own super napier silage, and also increase on the energy by use of the maize germ, so that our cows can actually have adequate and enough nutrients for maximum milk productivity. So according to you, tell us in the comment, do you think super napier is a game changer in the dairy industry? Make sure you tell us on the comments so that we can be able to know what you think. See you, and make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. Thank you.